Hello, this is Maria Fancy, and I'm making a video on counterpoint dictation. And this is going to be first species counterpoint, which is note against note. And so we're going to write these in one whole note per measure. The first thing to do before I start listening to the recording is to set up my workspace, and I need to have a grand staff. And it is this brace here that makes it the grand staff. Just having the clefs alone does not make that the case. So how do I get my spotlight out of the way? There we go. And then I know that this example, they're wanting me to notate it in the key with 3 flats. And they've given me the first note. In the examples that we use in our class, you don't necessarily always get the first note, but you can assume that the bass line would start and end on do. So I know that this one's going to be do on the bottom. In this particular case, they're giving me the top note do as well. You might not necessarily get that in the ones that we do, but you would be able to figure it out by using name that scale degree. You would also be able to assume that it's either going to be a third, a fifth, or an octave above, or maybe more remotely a sixth, but usually not. It's either going to be third, fifth, or octave above, and so you can sing and figure out if it's do, mi, or so. Now, this particular example, they're telling me I can have anywhere between 6 and 10 notes for the example. So I'm going to draw in 10 measures because we're putting one whole note in each measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll have a 10th. I'll make a 10th one here. I might not need it, but I'm just going to make a little 10th measure there, just in case we actually do go to 10. And now I'm going to play the recording, and this is something I'm pulling off Aurelia, which is a ear training software, and I'm doing this so that it's a random example that I don't know. And so here it is. You're going to hear me listen to it, actually, before I even listen, I forgot that there's one more step I like to do. I like to put little blanks because that helps me follow. I actually literally move my pen from one to the other. One blank to the other as I'm going, because sometimes a note will stick out to me in the middle, and I'll think, oh yeah, that's definitely T, and then I don't know where to put it in the actual example. So I always do that. I also will put in, so I can put my solfege there. I also might put in the qualities of the intervals, and when I do that, I label them with P for perfect, and this would be your fifths and octaves. And then they often sound very open. And then I use C for consonants. And that would be thirds and sixths. At this point, because we're doing first species counterpoint, you're not going to hear any dissonances. So I'm not going to use the label I would use for those interval qualities, which would be D for dissonance. All right, so now I'm going to play the example, and you'll hear some silence afterwards because I'm going to be replaying it in my brain. So I might even hum a little bit, but anyway, hopefully this example will come across okay in the audio. With my text setup that I'm using, it's not the greatest, so I apologize in advance. And I know that it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know that it was 6 long, so I'm going to cross that out. I don't need that. And then I know I heard it ending on a unison. I'm using the U for unison because I even know that it's not even an octave. And that's my bird clock in the background. It's chiming the hour. So excuse that noise as well. So I know that I had a do, ti, do. I think the T I heard a common do-ti-do and like a contrary motion cadence in there. So I know that I had a contrary motion cadence going like this, I believe, you know, in that kind of shape between here and between the last two notes. So soprano going down, bass moving up. And I'm pretty sure that I had the T in the bass. So I'm gonna put that natural, I'm putting this the natural in to remind myself that I've got that. And then I'm putting the T here. And I can take that away. And then now I'm going to listen to it again. And this time I'm going to try to fill in the whole, some solfege for either the soprano or the bass. And I realized I put my T in the wrong place. That should be for my, these should be for my intervals. So now I think I definitely heard it jump down, and then I heard a half step. I definitely heard a jump down and then a half step. So that tells me it's got to be do, sol, la, because if I jumped down to do, fa and went up to so, it'd be a whole step. So I definitely know that that's what I heard there. I believe that so far I have heard it twice. So I'm going to keep track of my listenings with these hash marks just to make sure that I don't listen too many times. And then now I'm going to try to get some of the soprano. Okay, and you saw that I was writing as I was listening, and I definitely heard May. I thought it was do going up to May here, but in the first two measures, but I definitely heard May, Re, Do at the end. And so then I know that what I put in for measures 2 and 3 did not work. So now I've got to, the other thing I can check while in between listenings, I can look and see how are my solfege lining up. So I have do against a mi. Yes, those two would fit. That would be a third. I have a T against a re, and that would also work. Those would be, that would be a third. And so that's useful to know because you don't want to put down two different solfege that don't match. For example, you don't want to put re against a do in first species counterpoint because that is a dissonance and it's not something that would be used in the example. All right, and then here's another example, another listening. So I'm pretty sure that I heard a do, me, fa. Whoops. I'm pretty sure I heard do, me, fa, and I'm pretty sure about my solfege now. So I'm going to write them all in the whole notes. And the other thing that I've been keeping track of in my head that I haven't mentioned is that I don't think I have heard any perfect intervals in this area here. I am pretty sure that I've heard only consonant intervals, either thirds or sixths. So I'm going to check that against my solfege as well. So do, sol, la, do, and then ti, do. And that is my final measure, so I'm going to put the double bar line in. All right, so now I'm going to listen to it one more time, and we'll see. I'm going to look at my notation. Now I'm going to read this in notation to see if I'm correct. I'm basically kind of trying to think about error dictation at this point. Okay, so I am pretty positive that I have this correct. And The other thing I noticed this time when I was listening, I was trying to listen for the contour of a hearing parallel, the parallel motion here and the parallel motion here, and I definitely heard that. So I'm pretty positive that I have this correct. And so now I'm going to label my intervals because that's part of the process. Part of your answer has to be putting in these intervals so that that's part of analyzing the counterpoint. And so any counterpoint dictation you turn in has to have intervals in the middle. So you'll have your soprano line here in notation, your intervals in the middle, and then the bass line here. It's okay to do all of this work like I showed you. You can just erase it at the end, or just you can leave it. It doesn't matter to me if I see your thought process going on. So I believe I did that in 5 listenings. You would actually have 6 and total, and for longer examples you'll have 7. But this for the first species, you're going to, in your quizzes, you're going to have 6 listenings. So I hope this example was helpful, and I hope that it will help you become better at dictation. I think you do need to follow a very concrete process. So let me know if you have any questions, and happy dictation.